Hey viewers and friends, Andrew back again and welcome to another slasher review, and today I'm going to be reviewing Bloodmoon, which is a Australian slasher movie from 1990. Pretty cool to be reviewing yet another Aussie slasher. There's not too many out there. So the quick rundown of the plot for Bloodmoon is it centres around a cast of characters from an all-girls school called St. Elizabeth's. They're preparing for their formal, which is the American equivalent to prom night, and they're inviting a group of boys from a neighbouring all-boys school as their dates. So the movie pretty much, or the main part of the storyline pretty much centres around these high school students and just the lead up to the formal or prom night. Throw in a killer that mysteriously and slowly starts picking off some of the students one by one, and that pretty much concludes the movie. So that's my quick rundown of the plot. Now on to my opinions on the film. So as the movie starts, especially the first half of the movie, when you get introduced to all the character development, especially in terms of a slasher movie, is brilliant. They did a fantastic job developing the storyline and all the characters. All the characters were interesting, most of them were really, really likeable, a lot of fun, and it almost felt like I was watching a teen high school movie from the 80s, or even a soap drama like Home and Away or Neighbours, which unfortunately leads onto my biggest disappointment in this movie, which is the slasher portion of the film. The slasher portions of this movie were really, really basic, to the extent that it almost felt like they were an extra add-on, turning a standard high school 80s movie into a slasher film. Really, really unfortunate. The killer, it was very obvious who the killer was pretty much from really early on in the film, and then an event took place. I'm not going to spoil anything, but an event did take place near the halfway mark, and then it was blatantly obvious who the killer was, and without really giving the killer too much of a backstory, you sort of begin to realise why these killings were taking place. There were a lot of jealous motives behind the killings with the killer, so very obvious who the killer was, and there was no twist ending at the end, which I thought there might have been, and the ending was pretty shit. So this could have been so much better. The characters were really, really good, and the character development was amazing, especially in terms of a slasher movie, and I felt if they had have included a better killer in a disguise, some amazing and varied kills, and then a nice twist ending, this would have been a awesome little slasher movie and quite easily one of my favourites. But the slasher portions of the film just felt like they were added on. They were very, very basic. There was a decent body count, but the killer, as I said, was probably one of the most boring killers that I've ever seen in a slasher movie. There was nothing special about the killer at all. Very, very plain, very, very dull. In terms of the actual killings themselves, they were all pretty much the same. Most of them happened off screen, unfortunately. You did see the after effects of the killings, and there was some nice gore. They looked pretty nasty. It was a real shame there wasn't more on screen killings, but the killer just went around with a piece of barbed wire, as you can see there on the cover, and pretty much just strangled his victims with the piece of barbed wire, and that was pretty much all the killings. So in terms of a slasher, this movie was pretty disappointing, but in terms of characters, the movie was really, really good. But we're not really here to focus on the characters, we're here to focus on the slasher movie itself. And in terms of the slasher movie itself, it was a pretty big disappointment, which was a shame because I was expecting it to be a pretty decent movie. I was really hoping it would be a hidden gem, but unfortunately, it's not the case with Bloodmoon. So, for an overall score, I'm unfortunately going to have to give Bloodmoon a 2 out of 5. I could easily rate it a little bit higher in terms of characters, but as I said before, this movie is a slasher film, so I'm going to have to review it as one. And yeah, that's why it only gets a 2 out of 5 for me. Really unfortunate, it could have been so much better than it was, but unfortunately not the case this time around. So that's been my review for Bloodmoon. 2 out of 5, as I said before. I don't really recommend it. I guess if you're a hardcore fan of the genre, and especially if you're wanting to add an Australian slasher to your collection, Bloodmoon, give it a go. I mean, especially if you're a fan of 80s high school films, I think you will kind of enjoy it. But don't go into this expecting it to be an amazing slasher movie or even a very good one, because it's not. So that's been my review for Bloodmoon. I hope you've enjoyed it, and thanks a lot for watching.